All right, everybody, welcome back. Episode 41 of Sports with Skiz. This one is a little bit of a sad one just because the college football season is over and we have to wait until late August for the season to come back. But before we start shedding a little bit of tears about that and jumping into the national championship game, Knock, how we doing over there, brother?
We're good, man. Like you said, it's bittersweet. Season's over. I'm a little tired of complaining about the referees, but I'm gonna miss it at the same time. So,
Yeah, me too. My wife and I, we were relaxing a little bit earlier this week, and she was like, "No football on this weekend." I'm like, "Well, no college football, but we got NFL, so at least we have something there." But it's just crazy, especially from us like doing this show. I always thought before we started doing this stuff that the season goes by in the blink of an eye. It's like you're so excited for week zero, even though those games like really aren't like huge ones, and then it's like you blink, you're in conference play, and then you blink again, and it's already bowl season. So it was a hell of a year. We will jump into a little bit of that. But first, let's knock this one out. Knock the we called it. We didn't cover none of the bets that I gave hit, unfortunately. But the Indiana Hoosiers get it done. They win the national championship over the Miami Hurricanes 27-21. And for those of you who are listening, I don't know if this will still be a thing by the time this comes out. I hope it is, but knock. Pull up Google for me and Google Kurt Signetti and tell me what it says when you Google Kurt Signetti.
winner,
Did
win.
you see it? Did you Google it?
No, I didn't.
Put it in your Google browser right now. We'll wait for you for a second and tell me what it says at the top of the screen.
Hold on, give me one quick second. Can you see?
Bear with us. This is bad podcasting.
Bad podcasting. Let's take a look here. Herb Signetti is an American college football.
At the top of the screen, does it say it on your web browser? If not, you might have to do it on your phone.
No, let's check it out.
It should say it at the top of your browser. You on Google?
No, I'm looking
Right
here.
under where it says more and tools. Again, everybody, sorry, this is very bad podcasting. Unless you're watching it on YouTube, it's not too bad.
Man, I don't know. National
All
coach.
right. No, just Kurt Signetti is all you have to type in, and it should pop up. I'm looking at it right now.
Mm, what's it say for you?
Yep, he won. So Google did a cool little thing where if you Google Kurt Signetti, then at the top of the screen it says, "Yep, he won." And for those who don't know what that means, he gave that legendary post game interview. I think it was. I don't even think. I think the season was already going, and he just said, "Google me, I win." And Google did a nice little salute to him for that. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, Indiana man, congratulations! This is awesome. I think it's a really cool thing for college football, and maybe a little bit of a tide turning for other universities that are similar to this, where they haven't had much success, but they have some big donors. They make a splash higher, and you never know what can happen. But this is really like a storybook thing. Like I believe that I don't know. 15, 20 years down the line, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a movie after this team and after this university with just how bad Indiana was prior to Kurt Signetti. And then boom, you hire him. You got some people saying it's a good hire. You got a lot of people saying he won't be able to do anything. And he climbs the top of that mountain. He makes people eat their words from last year when they lost to Notre Dame in ugly fashion in the first round of the playoffs. And Fernando Mendoza, shout out to you, brother. Heisman Trophy winner, national championship quarterback. And what a play on that 4th and 5 when they decided to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, and he even said at the end of the game that it's something you could make a movie out of. It was a magical run. The last 2 years. Let's not discredit what they did the season prior, but 16-0 is pretty impressive. It was a 17-0.
16-0. First team since Yale, I believe. I forget what year it was. It was almost 100 years ago, I think.
So Yeah, man. Hats off to Indiana, man. Congratulations. Miami has nothing to hang their head on. I don't think anybody came into the season expecting them to go to the Natty. And yeah, it's kind of funny. I saw this thing on Twitter. Carson Beck said Ray Lewis said one thing to Carson Beck, and on the next play he throws up the Doritos Locos Tacos. So
Yeah, yeah, that was funny.
can you really be mad at it?
Right. Yeah. And one guy that I also want to give a shout out to is D'Angelo Pons, man. That dude is a beast. He's a corner from Miami, Florida, was highly overlooked. And I can't remember if it was him. No, it was the cornerback who made the game sealing, I guess I should say, interception. Uh, Jamari Sharp, talking about how he's a guy from the Miami, Florida area, and he loves his city and stuff like that. But he was overlooked by Miami and the university, never got an offer from him, and it was basically sweet to end that game. But D'Angelo Pons, man, I feel like you can make a case for him being the best cornerback in the country. I think if he had a little bit more size to him, he's only 5'9", 170, then he would definitely be in that category. But that's going to be a guy who plays on Sundays. Um, this whole Indiana defense just did a really, really good job. That Aiden Fisher is a beast. The linebacker number 4, he came ready to play. Jamari Sharp was also a guy that was really, really good, and I thought stepped up big time for them in the backfield. Obviously, we talked about how he had that game-winning interception, but he made a great read. Carson Beck, I think one of his faults, I guess, especially this season, but I think it's been since his shoulder injury at Georgia, is the deep ball. He just doesn't throw a good deep ball. It's his weakness. We talked about it, that one pass against, I think, Ole Miss, where it looked like he threw a paper airplane and just didn't get it to the guy. So, yeah, I mean, it was a really, really good game. It looked like it might have started to get ugly there whenever Indiana jumped out to a 10-0 lead. But I do got to give my a shout out as well too to the Miami defense. They did all that they could, especially there were a lot of times where Miami was going, 3 and outs or moving the ball a little bit, then they'd get a 3rd and 1 and boom, they'd get stopped. So that was a big, big turning point. Miami was just 3 of 11 on third downs. And another thing I think that hurt them was a lot of penalties as well, too. They had 7 for 60, only 2 more penalties than Indiana, but the yardage almost doubled them as well with the 60. So, yeah, crazy game. I love, love, love Indiana's running backs with Kalon Black and Roman Hemby. Those dudes just find a hole and hit it like quick burst, 10 yards, boom, 5 yards. Like they were just doing really, really good. And then again, I gotta highlight the Fernando Mendoza run on 4th and 5. Like I was sitting here talking with my wife, breaking it down like we were in a film session. And for those of you who watched it, if you have to go back and look, perfect QB draw where he starts to run. And if he goes to that left side, the safety for Miami is going to get there. He's probably not going to pick up the first down. And he channels that athleticism that he has, does the jump juke to the right, and then crashes in, bucks a defender, and then jumps into the end zone. So that was super, super cool to see. And one thing that I really like is it looked like Indiana did a really good job of film study because you know who ran that same play against Miami this year? It was Notre Dame at the first game of the year to tie the game before Miami went down and scored that game-winning touchdown or field goal. Excuse me, I can't remember exactly what it was, but just shout out to the Indiana coaching staff, shout out to the team, the university. I was seeing a lot of people pop up on my feed that have been, diehard Indiana fans for 20, 30, 40 years. And I saw there was even, I think, season ticket holders that have had season tickets there for 45 plus years. These people were like 70, 80 years old and they went to the national championship and got to see their team get it done.
Yeah, respectfully too, because before Kurt Signetti got there, I think his first game there might have been less than 8,000 people. Now they have packed crowds, and it shows what belief can do and what support can do as well. Because that fan base was there. It's just hard. It's
Hmm.
for people. When you constantly see losing You've got to remember, man, these kids cycle in and out every 4 to 6 years too, so it's hard
Yeah.
to keep some of those same fans as well. So, congratulations to them and all their success. And Mario Cristobal down in Miami as well. I'm not going to slight him. Uh, Mark Fletcher Jr., this guy ran a buck 22, 2 touchdowns. He had that 70-yard touchdown run. Malachi,
Hmm.
these are guys, like you said, are going to be playing on Sundays. And it was just so methodical for Indiana. It was just so easy. The penalties were hurting Miami, and even though it wasn't really Miami was kind of in the game pretty much from start to finish, but it just seemed like they were so far behind, and it didn't
That
matter.
punt block.
Yeah, and it didn't matter what big plays were made for the Hurricanes. They just could not overcome that deficit, and that punt block definitely did it too.
Yeah, yeah, and a couple of other cool things here. So they mentioned it on the broadcast, and then I saw another tweet about it. So Indiana did not lose a fumble in its final 1,047 offensive plays and 15 games. So their only fumble of the year came against Old Dominion in the first game of the season, and they did not lose another fumble after that. So that's obviously a winning recipe if you're not turning the ball over. Shout out Charlie Becker as well too. The dude just does not drop the ball. Every reception this year has been a catch. He has not dropped a singular pass, which is crazy. And then I also have to give another shout out. They were talking about it in the post game interviews, and then I follow this guy as well too. His name's Mike Kadick. For those of you who don't know, he's actually from the Pittsburgh area. He went to North Allegheny, I believe, and he spent 6 years at Indiana. So he was there from I believe either 2019, 2020 until last year, but he was on last year's team that went to the college football playoff. And one of the linemen shouted him out and basically said he was a fundamental piece in getting this culture turned because they had a ton of guys come over from JMU. And he was the first guy that basically came over that stayed at Indiana, that was going to stay there and was like, we're not going to do any clicks. There's not going to be a JMU click. There's not going to be an Indiana click. We're all going to be one team together. And I guess that was a big thing that really helped build the culture. So he got a shout out from some of the teammates and then Kurt Signetti as well too after the game and was going outside, gave him a big hug and said, he was a fundamental key to that. So it's cool to hear that like inside story of things that people don't really get to hear about when there is like a coaching change and transfers coming over.
Yeah, and I saw this one guy on Twitter. I don't know his name, scraggly looking guy, just really, really kind of downplaying what Indiana did this season. And yeah, he was really talking about the age and the transfer portal and how they had $20 million and they can go out and purchase this, that, and the third, and that's fair and that's true. You can do that these days, and maybe it is fortunate to have a guy like Mark Cuban, but like, dude, they had no 5-star recruits. I don't even
No,
have any 4 stars on their team. They just had some guys with experience. Um, do I agree with some guys being of a certain age playing collegiate sports? No, but at the end of the day, this Indiana team was built, and they've got some guys who can go pro. And like you said, D'Angelo Ponce is just a freshman, right?
no, he's a junior.
Junior. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, regardless, they've got guys that are going to go, and I just don't understand all the hate behind it. I actually, if you're going to hate anything, my goodness, hate Vanderbilt basketball because they've got guys who are 26 and 20 on their team. But I digress. We're not talking about hoops just yet. So
Yeah, and to your point too, their composite ranking, I believe, even coming into this year, I want to say they were like top 60 in the country. And I would bet my life that they did not spend as much money on a football team than Texas Tech did. And you saw what happened to them in the playoffs. And that's one of the things Signetti said. It's like, you guys throw out all these numbers. I guarantee you have no clue what we spent on this football team. And they're going to spend more now. But if you're going to hate on that, then where's it at whenever Georgia's paying these players, Alabama's paying these players. I think it's cool to your point too, like why all the hate. I think it's cool to see like a new up and coming team who really hasn't had success at all. Like there's nothing to hate about Indiana. There's nothing really to hate about Kurt Signetti. I guess he could maybe rub you the wrong way with like his demeanor, but I think the guy just loves football and he loves winning. I don't think there's that much. And he comes from the Nick Saban coaching tree as well too. So he learned how to do it the right way. And it's funny because his Nick Saban comes from his father's coaching tree. When he was at West Virginia, he was a graduate assistant under Kurt's father. And I saw it was funny too. The part of my take guys were talking, and if you watch the pregame show before, whenever they picked the winner, you would think that Nick Saban would pick Kurt Signetti in Indiana to win, but he brought out the Miami hat, had Mario Cristobal. I know Mario Cristobal, I think, was under his coaching staff at one point as well too. But there's some speculations that they believe that Nick Saban knew how good of a coach Kurt Signetti would be and never wanted to promote him to offensive coordinator because of that, so he could get a big time job. So Kurt Signetti basically took that leap of faith, went to IUP, went to Elon, then JMU, and now has shown why. Because winning a national championship in Indiana, I don't know. I don't think there's many coaches out there who could do something like that.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said those words, leap of faith, because if you read the sign behind me, that's like my word of the day, man. Especially for this episode. I don't know if you can see it, Mike, because of the light.
Mm-hmm.
Take a leap. I brought this out around our ninth, 10th episode, and I wanted to revisit that as well. Guys like Kurt Signetti are the prime example of why you and I do what we do, and why people should give themselves an opportunity in this world. Don't ever be afraid to fail forward. Success isn't easy. Obviously, if you watch football, this guy that we're talking about, Kurt Signetti, he was coaching at Alabama's coaching staff, went to IUP, went to Elon, went to James Madison, turned all those programs around, and you see how it turned out. You know what I mean? So the only thing to fear in this world is fear itself, and obviously the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But I digress from that as well. So make sure whatever you do in this world, you do it with love. You have a good reason and a good purpose for it, and take that leap, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Knock. Well said. And for our next, we'll move on again. Congrats to Indiana. Congrats to Kurt Signetti and all those boys. Congrats to the fan base of Indiana, Bloomington as a whole. That's awesome. You guys get to hold this over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans' head for a while. I know they beat y'all last year, but it doesn't matter. Y'all got it done this year. So that's awesome. Knock, do you want to go ahead and transition over to what we're going to do next for the show?
Yeah, yeah. So we started this up back in August, and while we're not finishing up and we're not capping anything off, obviously football season is over. So I just kind of wanted to talk about a couple of things for you, Mike. I think for the fans it would be fun, and for us as well. Some of our top favorite moments, our top favorite predictions coming into the season, as well as our top three surprises or changes, if you will, to end the year. So, Mike, I don't know what your top three favorite moments are, but I'll kick it off if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but our first episode, I think it was a little nerve-wracking for us. It was obviously fun, and we took it 40 more, so
Mm-hmm.
pretty sweet, But I just remember the jitters that came behind it, you know what I mean? And at the end of it, it was like a monkey off our back when the episode was over and it was all uploaded, So that was
Yeah.
pretty sweet. But
Yeah.
get into college football. I'll let you talk about your favorite moments as well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with the show as well too, just like favorite moment from this year from Sports with Skiz. Obviously our like first, it felt like big time interview with Casey Fox, athletic director from Tennessee Tech.
Mhm.
If you guys didn't listen to that, make sure you go do that. It was awesome to get to sit down with him. We had some technical errors, I think, with the video, unfortunately, but it was just cool. He was, a guy that I've talked about him multiple times. He was the reason basically that I wanted to start this up. I talked to him when he was the deputy athletic director at Montana State when I was trying to do some freelance stuff. And then whenever I finally started this with Knock, I reached back out to him and he was like, absolutely, I remember you. I would love to come on. And I'm glad, you have this avenue to do this. So talking to him was super cool. Planting that flag with Tennessee Tech, they're definitely going to be on my support system, and people that I'm going to be rooting from here on out. So that was my favorite moment to start that off.
Absolutely, man. Shout out Tennessee Tech, man. What and a heck of a football season, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's get into football this year. And by the way, Mike, shout out all our guests that we brought onto the show. We've been very
Mhm.
fortunate to have some really, really solid people talk about their journey, their lives, and their careers, and share that story with us too, man, and many more to come too. So, uh, I got to be honest with you, Mike. I'm kind of torn. A lot of these situations have to do with Penn State for me personally. I think it's one because I'm a fan, two because
So these are our surprises, right? We're moving to surprises now for like the college football season.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They're like I said on every
Yeah.
list. They were in my top predictions as well. I would have told you Penn State was going to be one of those teams coming into the year. Um, I think a lot of people thought the same thing. You know, Drew Aller. They had the dual running back system. James Franklin being due. They made it to the college football playoff last year. They retained pretty much their entire roster. So, you know, it was hard not to think that Penn State was going to be a powerhouse this season. And quite frankly, that loss to Oregon just deflated the program. You can say the UCLA loss all you want, which was a complete and total embarrassment. But with that being said, I don't know if it's because I'm a fan, because of the region, or simply because it was really that big of a deal. And I think it's slept on now that it's just swept under the rug at this point.
Yeah, definitely a big surprise to the majority. I mean, what they were preseason number two coming into the year. They start off very hot, and then boom, they fall on their face a little bit against Oregon, and it was like the collapse of that. So I definitely think that was big. You mentioned it. I mean, they brought back their starting quarterback with, Heisman hopeful odds, both of their running backs, their entire offensive line. They brought in better weapons on the outside, and then they brought back a fierce defense. And it was just, I don't know, it was one of the crazier moments that I remember of a team that had such high expectations that fell flat on their face. And I'll go with mine too to kind of stick with this. I think Texas was a huge, huge disappointment. If you would have asked me before the season, I think we were talking about it. And if we go back and take a look at our predictions, I had them winning the SEC, and I thought, Arch Manning was going to take that leap that everybody was thinking. And it's not fair that I put all that pressure on Arch Manning. I think he was getting it more so just because of the name. But Steve Sarkisian moved on early from Tyler Ewers. They knew he was going to the draft, so he had all off season to prepare for what I thought was going to be a better offense than the year prior, just because he does like using his quarterback in the run game. And not only could they really not get that going, they couldn't get the regular running game going with the running backs that they had there. And we talk about teams paying for players. They brought in a ton of transfers with high expectations, and a lot of them really didn't live up to it. And they're in the same boat as Penn State, not as worse, because they didn't, completely fall flat on their face. They picked up some big wins, had a little bit of a shot there to make the playoffs, but I think not making the college football playoff is a huge disappointment from Texas.
Yeah, and again, I mean, for me personally, bro, it's hard. It's hard for me to sit there and say that it was a disappointing season because it was to a degree, right? And you said it. They started off really slow. They had a lackluster win versus Sam Houston State, and then they kind of picked it up there at the end of the year. They beat Oklahoma. They beat A&M. It wasn't really enough to get them in, right? So I guess kind of disappointing. And like you said, it's not really fair to put all that pressure on Arch Manning. But you know what? Sometimes it's just how it goes. I said it week one after they lost to Ohio State. It's going to be the way the cookie crumbles, bro. You're in the spotlight
Mm-hmm.
now, getting paid to do this. But I think you know what I like about him a lot, Mike, is he handled it with grace, and he did get,
Yeah.
which is what you want, right? So, uh, shout out to Arch Manning, Texas. Again, like you said, no running game. It's hard for the kid to get going when he's your leading rusher, damn near.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't. So I think Arch Manning will be okay. So if I had to another, really surprising to me, a couple of transfer portal guys, I think we can call them busts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Safe to say
Yeah.
some of these guys are busts. Um
Mm-hmm.
not bust. Caden Salter, bust. And chime in if you have any. Nick Anderson, wide receiver, bust. Just didn't work out. Mike, your favorite phrase all year, the grass isn't always greener.
Hmm.
And it's just the truth. It's just the truth sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know if you mentioned Nick Anderson from LSU. He was at Oklahoma the year before. He was the number 9 ranked transfer in the portal, went to LSU, finished the season with 12 catches, 106 yards, 2 touchdowns in 7 games. So that was a big letdown, unfortunately. Jaden Ott from Oklahoma. I think we talked about it a couple of times. Like, was he hurt? What was going on? Was he just buried in the depth chart? He was a huge pickup for Oklahoma late in the transfer portal window, and I believe he finished with, I don't know, 68 total yards on the season or something like that, like on 11 attempts. So that was very, very unfortunate. We could go down to some like lower ranked guys. I mean, Jackson Arnold didn't really have a good year at Auburn. He was kind of forced out of Oklahoma though, so it really wasn't on him. Malik Murphy going from Duke to Oregon State. Oregon State was horrendous. He didn't play well. 1,800 yards, 8 interceptions, or nine touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Excuse me. But the list goes on and on. I'll throw in a second. Gio Lopez. Gio Lopez was another guy that I think was a huge disappointment for the University of North Carolina. But I'll throw in a second-year player that was disappointing was, and this is just my fandom for the most part, but Eli Heinstein or Eli Holstein for Pitt was just absolutely horrendous. He showed strides last year coming over to Pitt, and then this year he just completely fell on his face as well, and got benched for a true freshman 3-star that came in, and it looked like if they had him in some of those earlier losses, that Pitt probably would have won and had a better record and maybe had some better momentum. So yeah, the transfer portal, man, grass is not always greener. Some of these guys, some of these universities, get ready. You're going to pay a guy so much money and he's not going to do anything for you. So you don't get that money back. So be careful with that.
Hey man, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and Mason Heinzel is the guy for Pitt. Hopefully, he doesn't have that regression that Eli Holstein did last season.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Moving on, my second one. You could call me a Glazer, you could call me whatever, but I got to go Indiana, man. They were a huge, huge surprise. I think a lot of people thought that they were going to regress a little bit. I'm looking at odds for the national championship earlier this season, and I can't quite find the opening odds for them. But in week 5, they were plus 4,000 to win the national championship. So if you're looking at some other teams in week 5, Oregon was plus 700, so that was a lot better odds that you could get them at. Georgia was plus 750, so that's just to put that into light. And then also too, man, just the historical run for them. I'm going to read off my phone a little bit with some of these stats, but Indiana this year had as many AP top 10 wins that they've had in their whole entire uh, history. So before 2025, they were 116-1. I said that correctly. 6 wins against AP top 10 teams, 116 losses, and 1 tie. This year they went 16-0. They also got their first bowl victory since 1987. 1987. That is crazy. That was like 7 years before I was even born. And then Indiana, they had 3 bowl wins in the span of 18 years or 18 days. And I believe their history, they only had 3 bowl wins ever. So that was crazy. Again, more glaze for Indiana, but I'm sorry, I have to do that. It's just a crazy, crazy run.
It's yeah, man. It's well deserved. It's well deserved. I mean, I don't think the average person truly knew how bad Indiana has been historically, through their football.
Mm-hmm.
I think their basketball program really carries that and really hides it well too. Um, 3 bowl wins. I knew they were second losingest team in the nation, but 3 bowl wins throughout their history is absolutely absurd. I mean, geez, BBVA Compass Bowl, the Pop Tart Bowl, the roller, Florida Gator Bowl. I don't know, something, anything. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, 1990, I believe, was their last bowl win. I'm sorry. I thought it was 1987. I was getting, oh, wait. Yeah, 1990. So I apologize for that.
okay, yeah. Let me just take a look here. Lane Kiffin. I, Not just Lane Kiffin, but let's talk about Ole Miss in general as a whole, Mike. We've been kind of heavy on them all season. Weeks 5, 6, 7, we had no idea that this was going to happen, right? And through
Hmm.
we're seeing Ole Miss transform into this dominant team with a guy that you put me onto in Trinidad Chambliss, who was a former Division II quarterback after Austin Simmons, who was supposed to be the starter, was kind of a letdown. And this kid, Trinidad Chambliss, absolutely comes in and just balls. I mean, just really dominates. He's dealing with suing the NCAA right now because they're not giving him his eligibility
Waiver.
6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but regardless, I mean, Ole Miss as a whole, I mean, the ups and downs that they can deal with in one year. And I feel like as a team, and I feel like those players really handled it well. I was rooting for them to win against Miami, and they were oh so close.
Yeah, that's definitely another one that was in one of my lists as well too. More so like that playoff run, just with all the noise that was involved around Lane Kiffin and where his assistant's leaving, where the player's going to opt out and follow him, and they kind of rallied around each other. Even though I have seen over a couple of days there have been some Ole Miss guys that are going to LSU, but yeah, just a great job from them all season long, even with Lane Kiffin. But like you said, Trinidad Chambliss stepping in for Austin Simmons, who's supposed to be that guy after Jackson Dart, and jumping in and not skipping a beat and actually looking a lot better than what Austin Simmons did whenever he was getting his playing time was just great to see. And Trinidad, I think if he doesn't get that waiver, I think he's going to be a nice little day 2 draft pick for the NFL. So yeah, that was definitely a big surprise, and I thought that was really cool um, to see. Now, my last ones, I'm going to throw in two. And I got to give a shout out to the little guys, and they're not really that little, at least to me and you, but um, Montana State and Illinois State. So, Montana State, I'll start with them first. Just a great year. You beat your rival, in-state rival Montana twice. The second time you beat them is to get to the national championship game, which was just awesome to see. You win the national championship, first time since the 1980s, and they're not going to go anywhere. They just continue to get some good transfers in. They're always going to be one of those teams that is going to be at the top of the FCS level. So just shout out to them. And then really, even though they didn't get it done, shout out to Illinois State, man. I mean, just we've talked about it. If you listen to the show, I'm probably going to sound like I'm just going on a merry-go-round and saying the same thing about them. But like, I truly, truly don't believe people who don't pay attention to the FCS and just know how hard that division is of football. You don't really understand how improbable their playoff run was. Again, they lost the last game of the season. They didn't just lose, they got blown out. I think they put up 3 points against Southern Indiana. Um, if I'm speaking correctly, they think that they're going to miss out. They sneak in. They were basically the last team picked to get in there. They have to go down to Southeast Louisiana. They beat them on the road. When I say that this next game is one of the biggest upsets in FCS history, it is. When they beat North Dakota State, North Dakota State is an absolute powerhouse. If you don't know about them, similar to what Kurt Signetti said, Google them. They have been a powerhouse at the FCS level since we were in high school and probably in middle school as well, too. They were upsetting Iowa States and teams like that on the road that thought that they were getting a cupcake team to play in the beginning of the year. They go to the Fargo Dome. They're down 2 touchdowns with 6 minutes left, and they come back, score a touchdown. They go for 2, and they win that game 29-28. Then they got to go on the road and play UC Davis. They dominate that game and beat them. And then to get to the national championship, they have to travel on the road to Villanova, and they dominate them as well too. And then they put on a hell of a comeback. They showed a lot of resiliency against that game against Montana State, and they come up short, unfortunately, in overtime. But Illinois State, shout out to the Redbirds, man. I thought that was a huge, huge surprise, and they're going to have a lot of momentum to build on.
Oh man. And it was an incredible national championship game between them and Montana State. They were a 10.5 point underdog coming in and they played their tails off.
Hmm.
I mean, it pretty much came down to, it actually did come down to the final possession. Um, yeah, hats off, man. And Montana State, they're so cool too. But Illinois State, I was really rooting for them and they had a great year. And oh, you just work down, you don't. Oh, man. I mean, to a certain extent, you put the play in the hands of your defenders. You trust them. You have that faith. I respect that out of a coach. But they just ran that play. They ran the corner route with the slant underneath 2 plays prior, and I just wish they would have saw it like Coach Tanaka over here did. So um,
Hmm.
I I run a little more zone there and just kind of force the quarterback to make a play. The defense was kind of, it was overwhelming them in the second half. So shout out to Illinois State, man. Hell of a game. Great,
Yeah, shout out.
great national championship game.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just a couple of like honorable mentions and everything here too. I got to give them a shout out, but Kennesaw State, man, just a huge, huge surprise. Their first year at the FBS last year, they were a program that went 2-10. Just felt like, I mean, it's a team that's coming up from the FCS level, coming to the FBS, and they go 2-10. They fired the only coach that they had ever in their program, and then they brought in Jerry Mack, and he completely flips them around and does a 180, and they go 10-2 this year and make it to a bowl game. Unfortunately, they did lose to Western Michigan. But got to shout out to them. The only two losses they had in the beginning of the year, and really they should have won their first game. They had a chance to upset Wake Forest. They lose to them 10-9, and then they go on the road and they play the now national champions Indiana, and they lose to them 56-9. Excuse me, they went 10-4. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said 10-2. But 10-4, they played a hell of a year. So shout out to Kennesaw State.
Yeah. We were talking about a couple of these big name schools earlier in Penn State and Texas as some of our disappointments. Um, Florida's another one. It's a major, major disappointment there.
Yeah,
Yeah, as far as they go, let's want to talk about DJ Lagway for a second, and he was just another guy coming into the year. A couple of quarterbacks we've spoken on, throughout the season, and I'll talk about John Mateer's regression maybe a little bit later. But DJ Lagway going to Baylor, I mean, good luck, buddy. I mean, Florida's defense wasn't good this year, and Baylor. I mean, I hope they're going out and spending money in the transfer portal because their defense was terrible. So I don't know what this guy thinks he's doing by going to Baylor. I mean, he might have more free range to throw the football around. Defenses on the opposing side aren't as good as the SEC, but um, good luck, pal. Just you can't really get any lower than what you did this year. Major disappointment. Major disappointment.
yeah, him. We could throw Garrett Nussmeier and LSU in there as well too. Garrett Nussmeier. Those are two guys that had some pretty high Heisman odds before the year, and then Garrett Nussmeier gets benched. I think like game 9 or game 8, and doesn't come into play any other of those games. So that was a very very big disappointment. But another team that I do want to shout out for just having an absolute hell of a year. I mean, obviously you want to make the playoff and make it to the big stages. But I do got to give a quick shout out to the University of Arizona. This was a team that was picked 15th, I believe, to finish in the Big 12, and they finished fourth. They had a chance to, if they don't lose some early games to like Houston, Iowa State, maybe even BYU, who they lost to in double overtime. They're probably playing for the Big 12 national championship. But they ended up finishing their season. They went 9-4, a lot better than what some of these people had thought that they were going to do. And then I also, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Diego Pavia, I do got to shout out Vanderbilt as well too. They had a hell of a year. A lot of people thought that they were probably going to lose that steam, and They build on the year that they had last year. They locked their coach up to a big extension who's coaching at his alma mater, trying to turn the tides around there. They get their first, I believe, their first ever 5-star quarterback signee that flipped from Georgia. So they should be hopefully keeping up that momentum. I think I'll be able to root for them a little bit more. I was a Diego Pavia guy last year, just with him coming over from New Mexico State, a guy that was really slept on. And then I don't know, something about like his attitude this year. I really wasn't a big fan of him, to be honest with you. Just too cocky. And I don't talk about family or anything, but it was like their family was in a club whenever they were at the game with their own section. So you come at me all you want. I don't really care.
Yeah, Diego Pavia, good college ball player. Will it translate to the pros? Hope so. Um, didn't like the way he went off on the fans or the voters for the Heisman,
Yeah.
but hey
It's like,
man,
come on, bro. You're like 25 years old, dog.
yeah. I'd like to say you're entitled to feel how you want to feel, but like at some point you got to act like a professional at the same time too. So we'll see how
Yeah.
it ends out for him. I'm not really
Yeah.
on Vanderbilt. But in this day and age, especially with all the moves going on transfer portal, I don't know if Vanderbilt will be able um to remain uh relevant is the word I'm looking for. But you know what? They do have that 5-star recruit at quarterback, so we'll see coming into
Yeah.
and
Their stadium is really nice. They're in Nashville. If they get some NIL money behind them, I don't know why that wouldn't be a nice little destination for some people to go to.
right.
Anything else, Knock? Do you have any more surprises, disappointments?
No, I mean, kind of looking at North Carolina next year, maybe. Does Bill Belichick get his stuff together, or is it just going to be just a lousy waste of people's time, money, and effort? You know what I mean? So, that'll be one thing I'm looking forward to next year. I'd
I don't
like,
think he's going to win anything until he dumps Jordan.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't really like her, care for her too much too. But I mean, I don't really know.
Mm-mm.
I don't know her, but I don't care for her either. And just the whole thing is so ridiculous, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, whatever. Maybe that'll be on
yeah,
so the Chad Powers or something. Who knows?
yeah, absolutely. One little honorable mention, I guess I should say as well, too. Biggest surprise from this year, I will be a father this summer. So I don't know if you guys have seen the hat. But yeah, my wife and I are welcoming in our first child, so that'll be a nice little transition. So I'll be busy this off season with obviously the stuff that we got going on, but then also with parenthood as well, too.
Yeah, man, it's a world that I can't step into. God bless you, brother. You know what I mean. Great things coming for you and the family. So looking forward.
Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it, bro. Yeah, for everybody else that's out there as well too, that's gonna, you might be wondering what we're gonna be doing. So, we are still gonna be doing at least one episode a week. We're gonna be looking to get some interviews for you guys, at least one a week. People that are within the college football realm. Some people that we know, either former players, current players, coaches, whatever it may be. And then also, we're going to start trying to dabble in a little bit of the college basketball world. So it's not going to be as in depth as it was for college football. Right now, that's where we feel like our footprint is at with college football. But we want to make sure we do love college basketball. So we want to make sure that we're giving you guys a little bit of insight on what's going on week to week with that, especially when March Madness starts kicking off here in a couple of months. That's kind of what our game plan is. So we're not going to be going anywhere. We're going to keep coming to you guys, but it is going to be only one episode a week instead of the two that we normally do during the college football season.
Yeah, yeah, man, and I can't wait to talk about a little bit of college ball and get into that March Madness segment of the year. I'd like to, um, talk a little bit about it if we could on our pod
Mm-hmm.
to get on. Just a game or two here that I like there, and
Mm-hmm.
for the fans if they're any interested. Um, it's actually been a pretty weird year in college basketball. A couple of game winners, a lot of game winners actually. Some
I feel like there's been a ton of buzzer beaters.
Yeah, shades of March early, so I think this is going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal tournament coming up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Pittsburgh is hosting the first and I guess technically second round, so I will be in there for some of those games. Knock, feel free to join along if you want to, brother. It's always fun. I went the last year was here when Jack Golke made his name known against Kentucky, so that was cool to see up close and personal. I went the year, not year because it wasn't a year, but maybe 2 years prior to that as well too. Got to see some good games. Almost saw Chattanooga and knock off Illinois, and then also the A10 championship is coming back to Pittsburgh as well too. So the last time I think it was here was 2018, and it's crazy to think back. I went to the national champ or not the national championship, but I went to the conference championship for that game, and it was Rhode Island versus VCU. And you know who was the coach of Rhode Island at that time?
No,
Dan Hurley. So it was cool to see him early in his career and see him get all animated, like pretty up close and personal. So I do want to try to get out to that tournament as well too this year. So we'll definitely be bringing you guys some good college basketball content and kicking it off the right way there.
absolutely, absolutely. And count me in on joining you for some of those games. I will be
Absolutely.
there.
All right, cool. Knock, anything else before we let the viewers get back to what they were doing?
Man, listen and enjoy the remainder of your week, your weekend, and remember, whatever you do in this world, take that leap. We love you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys for a hell of a football year. Tuning in to either YouTube or podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it may be. Make sure you continue to check that out. Go subscribe to it, like, go follow us on all platforms. And again, we really, really appreciate you guys. And we're looking forward to talking a little hoops with you this off season, dropping some interviews and making a little tweaks for next year. So TBD on what that's going to be. But thank you all again and have a great rest of your day.